There's a moment in life when heaven goes silent, not because God has abandoned you, but because he is preparing something too heavy for ordinary ears to understand. And I speak to that person right now, the one who has been waiting, the one who has been praying, the one who has been crying in secret when nobody sees. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared, because when God is about to bless you with millions, he first separates you from the crowd. This is the part few understand. You thought the isolation was rejection. You thought the delays were denial. You thought the closed doors meant no. But heaven was whispering something deeper. Not yet. You are not ready to carry what I'm about to release. Because millions are not just money. Millions are responsibility. Millions are influence. Millions are weight. And God will never place weight on a soul that hasn't been strengthened in the hidden place. That's why your process has been painful. You've been misunderstood. You've been overlooked. You've been counted out by people who couldn't see what God placed inside you. But hear this clearly. What God is about to do in your life cannot be explained by human logic. It will look sudden to others, but they did not see your nights. They did not see your fasting. They did not see your obedience when it cost you everything. There is a calling on your life that few understand because it does not follow normal patterns. God does not choose based on popularity. He does not choose based on perfection. He chooses based on surrender. And you kept showing up even when it hurt. You kept believing even when nothing changed. You kept trusting God in seasons where it felt like he was silent. That kind of faith moves heaven. But listen carefully. The blessing is not just about receiving millions. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle it without losing your soul. Because many want the reward, but few accept the refining. God had to break pride out of you. He had to remove distractions. He had to expose hidden weaknesses, not to destroy you, but to prepare you. Because if he gave it to you too early, it would have crushed you. And now, something is shifting. You can feel it. There is a stirring in your spirit that you cannot explain. A quiet confidence rising inside you. Doors that once resisted you are beginning to respond differently. That is not coincidence. That is alignment. Heaven is aligning things in your favor. People will come into your life with opportunities you didn't chase. Resources will appear from places you didn't expect. Ideas will flow through your mind that carry divine strategy. This is what happens when God trusts you with more. But here is the part most people miss. The blessing is not just for you. God is raising you as a vessel. Those millions you're about to receive, they are tied to purpose. They're meant to bless families, to build things that outlive you, to lift others who are still in the place you once were. This is why your calling feels heavy, because it is bigger than you. And sometimes you feel afraid, not because you lack faith, but because deep down you sense the magnitude of what's coming. But hear this. If God called you, he already equipped you. If he trusted you with a vision, he will provide the provision. You're not stepping into this alone. The same God who carried you through your lowest moments. The same God who protected you when you didn't even realize it. The same God who kept you standing when everything tried to break you. He is the one about to elevate you. So do not shrink back now. Do not doubt at the edge of your breakthrough. Do not let fear talk you out of what God has already confirmed in your spirit. Because this next season will not look like your past. Where there was lack, there will be overflow. Where there was confusion, there will be clarity. Where there was struggle, there will be acceleration. And people will ask you, how did this happen? But you will know, it was not luck. It was not coincidence. It was God. God honoring your obedience. God rewarding your faith. God fulfilling a promise that was spoken over your life long before you understood it. So stand firm. Stay faithful. Stay humble. Because God is about to bless you with millions. And it is not just a blessing. It is a calling. A calling few understand, but one you were chosen to carry. There is a hidden place where God begins his greatest work. And it is not in front of people. It is not on stages. It is not in moments of applause. It is in the quiet, in the waiting, in the process that feels invisible and often unbearable. This is the season many try to escape. Yet it is the very place where your foundation is being built. You may have asked God why things have slowed down, why doors have closed, why people have walked away, why opportunities seem delayed, but what feels like loss is often divine positioning. God is not taking from you. He is preparing you. In this season, everything feels stretched. Your patience is tested in ways you never expected. Your faith is pushed beyond comfort. You begin to question what you once believed with certainty. But this is not destruction. This is construction. God is working beneath the surface, strengthening parts of you that cannot be seen, but will one day carry everything He is about to release into your life. Because what is coming requires more than desire. It requires endurance, discipline, and spiritual depth. There are moments when it feels like you are falling behind while others move ahead. You see people succeeding, advancing, celebrating, while you remain in a place that feels unchanged. But your journey is not meant to mirror theirs. God is writing a different story with your life, one that requires a deeper process. If He allowed you to step into your blessing too early, you would not have the capacity to sustain it. So He slows you down, not to deny you, but to develop you. In this preparation, God begins to remove what cannot go with you. Relationships that once felt permanent begin to fade. Habits that once felt normal begin to feel uncomfortable. Environments that once felt familiar begin to feel restrictive. This is not coincidence. This is separation, because where you're going cannot accommodate everything that once surrounded you. The weight of your calling demands a lighter load, a clearer mind, a stronger spirit. You may feel misunderstood during this time. People may not recognize what you are becoming because the transformation is internal. They only see your stillness, not your growth. They interpret your silence as stagnation, not realizing that God is reshaping your identity from the inside out. This is why the season feels lonely, not because you are alone, but because not everyone can walk with you through a process they do not understand. God also begins to refine your intentions. He examines your heart, not your words. He looks beyond what you say you want and studies why you want it. This is where many are delayed, not because they lack ability, but because their motives are not aligned. But you, in this season, are being purified. Your desires are being reshaped. What once drove you may no longer satisfy you. You begin to want more than success. You begin to crave purpose, meaning, and alignment with God's will. And while all of this is happening, it may feel like nothing is changing on the outside. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes even years pass, and you wonder if anything is truly shifting. But just because you cannot see movement does not mean there is no progress. Seeds grow underground before they ever break through the surface. Foundations are laid beneath structures before they are ever visible. God is working in dimensions you cannot measure. There's also a breaking that happens in this season, not to destroy you, but to humble you. Pride cannot survive where God is taking you. Self-reliance must be replaced with God-dependence. You begin to realize that your strength is limited, your understanding is incomplete, and your control is an illusion. And in that realization, you surrender. Not out of defeat, but out of trust. This surrender is powerful, because when you stop trying to force your way, God begins to lead you in ways you could not have planned. You become sensitive to His voice. You start recognizing His guidance in small things. Your discernment sharpens. Your spirit becomes stronger than your emotions. And even though your circumstances may not reflect it yet, something inside you has changed. You're no longer the same person who entered this season. Your perspective is different. Your priorities have shifted. Your faith is no longer based on feelings, but on conviction. You begin to understand that this preparation is not punishment. It is protection. God is guarding your future by refining your present. There is a weight attached to the kind of blessing you have been praying for, and most people are not prepared to carry it. They see the outcome, they see the abundance, they see the influence, but they do not see the responsibility that comes with it. They do not understand that what looks like a reward on the outside often feels like pressure on the inside. Because when God entrusts you with more, He is not just increasing what you have, He is increasing what is required of you. This is why the calling on your life has felt heavier than you expected. You thought it would feel exciting all the time, full of energy and visible progress, but instead there have been moments of deep stretching. Moments where you felt the burden of expectation, not just from others, but from within your own spirit. Because something inside you knows that you are not created for ordinary things. There is a divine assignment attached to your life, and it refuses to let you settle into comfort. The weight of this calling shows up in different ways. It shows up when you have to make decisions that others cannot understand. It shows up when you have to walk away from opportunities that look good, but are not aligned. It shows up when you feel the need to grow beyond environments that once felt safe. This is not confusion. This is discernment being sharpened under pressure. Many people desire elevation, but they do not realize that elevation exposes everything. When God begins to lift you, your character becomes more important than your talent. Your discipline becomes more important than your desire. Your integrity becomes more important than your image. Because at higher levels, what you carry internally will determine whether you stand or fall. This is why God takes time to build you before he reveals you. Because without that internal strength, the very thing you prayed for could become the very thing that breaks you. Influence without humility leads to pride. Wealth without wisdom leads to destruction. Opportunity without discernment leads to misalignment. And God is too intentional to allow you to step into something that could harm you without first preparing your spirit to handle it. There are moments when this weight feels isolating. You may feel like you cannot explain what you're going through. You may feel like others cannot relate to the level of pressure you feel internally. And that is because not everyone is called to carry what you are called to carry. This does not make you better than anyone else, but it does make your journey different. And different often feels lonely. In this loneliness, God teaches you dependence. He draws you closer, not to restrict you, but to strengthen your connection with him. Because the higher you go, the more you will need his guidance. The more decisions you make, the more discernment you will require. The more influence you have, the more accountability you must carry. And without a deep relationship with God, the weight of all of this would become overwhelming. You begin to notice that your tolerance for certain things decreases. Conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. Distractions that once consumed your time now feel like interruptions. You become more intentional with your energy, more protective of your focus, more aware of what you allow into your space. This is not withdrawal, this is alignment. The weight also teaches you discipline, not the kind that is forced, but the kind that is developed through understanding. You start realizing that every action has consequences, every decision has impact, every habit shapes your future. You begin to live with awareness, knowing that what you are building is not temporary. There is something long-term, something generational, something purposeful being established through your life. There are times when you will feel like you are carrying more than you can handle. Moments when the pressure feels intense, when the expectations feel high, when the path feels uncertain. But even in those moments, there is something within you that refuses to break. That is not your own strength. That is the grace of God sustaining you under the weight. Because God does not place a calling on your life without also providing the capacity to carry it. He does not assign responsibility without also releasing strength. What feels heavy is not meant to crush you. It is meant to shape you. It is building resilience, strengthening your character, and preparing you for a level of responsibility that few are willing to accept. And as this process continues, you begin to understand something deeper. The weight is not something to escape. It is something to embrace. Because it is evidence that God trusts you. It is a sign that there is something valuable within you worth developing, worth refining, worth preparing for what is ahead. There comes a moment in your journey when something begins to shift, not loudly, not in a way that everyone can immediately recognize, but deeply, unmistakably within your spirit. It is not something you can fully explain, yet you can feel it with clarity. The same situations that once drained you no longer have the same power. The same obstacles that once discouraged you no longer intimidate you in the same way. Something inside you has aligned, and because of that internal alignment, your external world begins to respond differently. This is the season where what once resisted you begins to open. Doors that felt locked without reason begin to move. Conversations that led nowhere begin to carry direction. Opportunities that once seemed distant begin to come closer without you chasing them. And it can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable at first, because you've become so used to struggle that ease feels unnatural. But this is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. Alignment happens when your spirit, your decisions, and your direction come into agreement with what God has already established for your life. It is when you stop forcing your own timing and begin to move with divine timing. It is when your actions are no longer driven by fear or pressure, but by clarity and conviction. And when this alignment takes place, things begin to flow in ways you could not have orchestrated on your own. You may notice that certain people begin to enter your life at the right moment. Not randomly, but purposefully. They carry insight, connection, or opportunity that matches exactly what you need in that season. At the same time, you may also notice that some people begin to drift away, not because of conflict, but because their role in your journey has come to an end. And instead of resisting this change, you begin to accept it with understanding. There's also a shift in how you think. Your mindset begins to expand. Where you once saw limitations, you now begin to see possibilities. Where you once hesitated, you now begin to move with confidence. This does not mean fear completely disappears, but it no longer controls your decisions. You begin to act despite uncertainty, guided by a deeper sense of direction that goes beyond logic. In this season, ideas begin to flow differently. You may find yourself thinking in ways you never have before. Solutions come to you in moments of stillness. Creativity increases. Vision becomes clearer. It is as if something has been unlocked within you, something that was always there but needed the right moment to be activated. This is not just personal growth. This is divine strategy being revealed to you in real time. You also begin to notice that your effort produces different results. Things that once required extreme struggle begin to respond with less resistance. This does not mean there is no effort involved, but the effort is no longer exhausting in the same way. There is a sense of grace attached to what you do, a sense that you are being carried as you move forward. This is what happens when you are no longer fighting against your path, but walking in alignment with it. At the same time, this season requires awareness. Because just as the right opportunities begin to appear, distractions can also present themselves. Not everything that opens is meant for you. Not every opportunity is aligned with your purpose. And this is where discernment becomes critical. You cannot move based on excitement alone. You must remain grounded, listening, aware of what truly aligns with the direction God is leading you. There may be moments when the pace of change feels overwhelming. Things begin to happen quickly, faster than you expected. Doors open one after another. Responsibilities increase. Expectations rise. And you may feel the need to slow down to process everything that is happening. But even in that, there's a quiet assurance within you that this is the direction you are meant to go. You begin to trust yourself more, not out of pride, but out of alignment. Because your decisions are no longer based on impulse, but on clarity. You have been prepared through the seasons of waiting, refined through the weight of your calling, and now you are stepping into a flow that reflects that preparation. Nothing about this is accidental. What once felt impossible now feels within reach. What once felt distant now feels present. And while others may look at your life and call it sudden, you understand that this moment is the result of everything you have gone through. Every delay, every challenge, every moment of doubt was shaping you for this alignment. And as you continue to move forward, there's a sense that you are no longer chasing something, but stepping into something that was already set in motion for you. There's a deeper truth about the blessing you have been praying for that many people fail to understand. It was never meant to stop with you. What God is preparing to release into your life carries a purpose far beyond personal gain, far beyond comfort, far beyond recognition. And if you only see it as something for yourself, you will miss the weight and the meaning behind it. Because when God blesses you at a higher level, He is not just increasing your capacity to receive, He is expanding your responsibility to give, to build, to influence, to impact lives in ways that go beyond what you can currently see. The blessing becomes a tool, not a trophy. It becomes a resource, not an identity. And this is where the mindset must shift. You begin to realize that everything you're stepping into is connected to something bigger than your own desires. The opportunities that come your way are not random. The resources that begin to flow are not accidental. They are part of a larger design, something that was set in motion long before you understood your role in it. And as this awareness grows, your perspective changes. What once felt like success begins to feel like assignment. What once felt like achievement begins to feel like responsibility. Because now you see the people attached to your obedience. You see the lives that can be changed through your decisions. You see the doors that can be opened for others because you chose to walk through your own. This realization can feel overwhelming at times. Not because you are incapable, but because you understand the impact of what you carry. You begin to think beyond yourself, beyond your immediate circle, beyond temporary results. You begin to think in terms of legacy, of long-term influence, of something that continues even after you are no longer present. And this is where intention becomes critical, because the way you handle what you receive will determine the reach of your impact. If you hold on to everything for yourself, the flow stops with you. But if you understand that you are a vessel, not a destination, then what moves through your life begins to multiply. God begins to place people in your path who need what you carry, not just financially, but spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And sometimes the greatest impact you will have is not through what you give materially, but through how you show up, how you lead, how you guide, how you create opportunities for others to rise. There's also a responsibility to build wisely, because the blessing is not just about distribution, it is about creation. You are called to establish things that last, things that continue to serve others even when you are not actively involved. This requires vision, discipline, and a willingness to think beyond immediate gratification. You may feel the tension between enjoying what you have received and using it for a greater purpose. And this tension is real, but it is also necessary because it keeps your heart in check. It reminds you that while you are allowed to experience the fruit of your labor, you are also called to steward it with wisdom. Humility becomes essential in this season because as things grow, as influence expands, as recognition increases, there is a subtle pressure to shift focus inward, to begin measuring your worth by what you have rather than who you are becoming. But the moment the blessing becomes your identity, you lose sight of its purpose. This is why staying grounded matters. Staying connected to God matters. Remembering where you came from matters. Because it keeps your perspective clear, it keeps your intentions pure. It ensures that as you rise, you do not disconnect from the very reason you were elevated. There will be moments where you question whether you're doing enough, whether you're using what you have in the right way, whether you're fulfilling the purpose attached to your life. And those questions are not signs of weakness, they are signs of awareness. They show that you're not taking this lightly, that you recognize the significance of what you carry. You begin to understand that impact is not always immediate. Sometimes the seeds you plant take time to grow. Sometimes the lives you touch will not show change right away. But that does not mean your role is insignificant. It means you are part of a process that extends beyond what you can measure in a moment. And as you continue to move in this awareness, something shifts in how you define success. It is no longer about how much you accumulate, but about how much you contribute. It is no longer about being seen, but about making a difference. It is no longer about reaching a certain level, but about using that level to lift others. The blessing takes on a new meaning. It is no longer just something you prayed for. It becomes something you are responsible for, something you must manage, something you must direct with intention and care. And in that understanding, you begin to walk differently, think differently, decide differently, knowing that everything you carry has the power to extend far beyond your own.